Hi guys, what's up and welcome to this week's video. So this week I'm going to be reviewing the Sony Xperia 1.7 which just came out a few weeks ago. It is Sony's latest flagship phone. I got the 256GB version with 12GB of RAM in the color Orchid Purple. Sony calls it a smartphone like no other because it combines the best of Sony's technology into one device. So you've got Bravia caliber display, you've got Walkman powered audio, and you've also got Sony camera excellence, and I love Sony cameras. In fact, this is being filmed on a Sony camera right now. So I ditched my iPhone 16 Pro Max for a few weeks to fully test out this phone and all its features. So let's get straight into the review. So firstly, let's talk about the phone's look and feel. So the phone comes in plastic packaging. You get just the phone, no charger. But I think that's great because personally, I didn't really need a charger. I have like 5 chargers lying around, so I'm not unhappy about that decision, and I'm all for environmental friendly packaging because most of the time you throw the packaging away. The first impressions of the phone, it looks very sleek, very nice. The thing that stood out to me was the textured back and the textured sides, which gives the phone a very nice grip, and it also makes it completely fingerprint resistant. There are no notches or cutouts within the screen. The camera is slightly off-centered to the left at the top, and the Orchid Purple color looks very nice. That's what purple looks like. Take note, Apple. The back camera module also blends in very nicely with the back of the phone. So when it comes to ports, this phone has all the ports that you can possibly have on a phone. So you have, of course, the charging USB-C port, you have the volume buttons, you have a power button, you have a dedicated camera button, you have expandable micro SD card storage, and this phone also has a headphone jack, which I haven't seen, I think, since 2020 probably. So I have mixed feelings about the headphone jack because whilst it is good and maybe it's useful to some people, I think it's a bit unusual to see on a phone in 2025 because let's be honest, a lot of headphones or external accessories are wireless these days, so I just don't see the demand for it. But I know some people are quite happy about that, but personally for me, I use Bluetooth earphones, so I didn't even find myself using the headphone jack once. In fact, even when I wanted to test it out, I literally have no wired headphones anywhere. The expandable storage idea is great though. I think that's definitely useful. As for the actual phone screen, the glass is nice, but I'm not too sure how I feel about the top and bottom gaps. They tend to collect dust and particles pretty quickly, and it's not a great look. Also, whilst the display looks very sleek, very clean looking, I'm not too sure how I feel about the width of the screen. This phone is definitely narrower than other phones, and I think my field of view can support a bit more width. So I actually don't like the dimensions of this display. Compared to other flagship phones out there, it just feels tall, narrow, and a bit more petite. And you might either really like that or you might not. Personally, I didn't. So now talking a bit more about the screen and interface. This phone has the Snapdragon Elite mobile platform along with Qualcomm Orion CPU, which boasts an astounding 45% boost in CPU performance. So this phone offers raw power, all backed by AI-enhanced 5G and Wi-Fi 7. A lot of people who play games on their phone, this will definitely be useful, and this phone does have the processing power to support all of that smoothly. Like I mentioned earlier, this phone offers Sony Bravia technology. The colors look amazing, it's vibrant, so doing day-to-day tasks like using apps, watching videos, playing games, all of that kind of stuff, the display does look great. However, one thing that I noticed is that the display is a bit reflective. Now, it's not too reflective, but it's a bit more reflective than, for example, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So in some lighting conditions, you're able to see your own reflection. The screen is just not as solid. It's nothing crazy where it causes any problems, but just something to keep in mind. With that being said, the phone is great to use indoors and outdoors because the brightness does go quite high. So this phone runs on the Android operating system, which I personally love. It's very easy to organize, customize, and it's super user-friendly. There's also a sidebar for quick access on certain settings and apps. And also, if you swipe up on the sidebar, it brings the option of opening 2 apps together through the multi-window features. The apps open and close pretty smoothly and quickly, so no complaints there. The keyboard is very responsive, it's very snappy, and the accuracy is also pretty good. Also, I quite like the haptics on this phone as well. Something that is a bit disappointing though is that this phone doesn't have Face ID, so you have to rely on the fingerprint scanner, which is on the side on that power button, but that does work quite well, but I don't think it's as satisfying or as easy to open sometimes as having Face ID. So now let's talk about the most exciting part of this phone, which is the camera, because it uses Sony Alpha camera technology. So you have a bunch of AI features such as auto framing and position lock to help keep the subject in the center of the frame and track them so that the video looks smooth and professional. Now, when I tested these features out, they definitely work. I think the position lock is great because no matter how much you move your phone, it keeps the subject in the center of the frame. So for example, if I film a lot of B-roll or a person, it makes it look more cinematic, more intentional, and just overall nicer. You also have bokeh video, which is like the cinematic video equivalent that's on the iPhone. And yeah, that also blurs the background out nicely. Now, the problem I have with the camera is whilst all these features and Xperia Intelligence all work quite well, the actual camera, the resolution, or just the finished look, it doesn't look as high res, and I think that's because it's not great in low light conditions. Because a lot of the time when you're shooting videos on your phone, the lighting might not be perfect. So whilst the camera's technology is good, I don't think it looks as high res or as bright as, for example, the iPhone 16. But in good lighting conditions, the camera does look pretty amazing. I love the contrast, the detail, the vibrancy of food, landscapes, people. But when it comes to the selfie cam, I feel like it has a slight fisheye kind of look. It's not a fisheye camera, but it does try to make your face look a bit 3D, so the middle part of your face kind of sticks out a bit. It gives a bit of a different look, which I'm personally not the biggest fan of. And actually, the low light photos are surprisingly good, but the low light video isn't. So I'm not sure how that's happened. So it's mixed feelings about the camera. It's not the best camera I've used on a phone. It really excels in some areas, but some areas it just looks very average. Also, one thing that I noticed when I was trying to take pictures from third-party apps like within Instagram and within WhatsApp, the focus wasn't great. It was always out of focus. So I'm not sure if that's a glitch to do with the app, the compatibility, or the actual cameras of the phone. Also, another thing, the stabilization isn't that good and the autofocus isn't great all the time. So footage can look a bit shaky. So now let's talk about the battery life and audio. So this phone claims to have a 2-day battery life due to its 5,000 milliamp hour huge battery. I think the battery drains pretty fast. Yes, it's slightly better than maybe the average phone out there, but 2 days is definitely nowhere near the battery life on this phone. It probably lasts a day because I've tested it out on multiple days, charged it 100% in the morning, used it throughout the day, and I use my phone a fair bit. So to watch videos, to sometimes use the camera, you know, just general social media scrolling and that kind of stuff. And yes, it got me through 1 day, but there's no way that this phone lasts 2 days. So I don't know what they've based that off. Also, Sony claims that this phone has technology where the battery health stays the same. So over time with phone usage, you sometimes get the battery health going down, so the battery drains faster. But with this phone, it should stay pretty consistent for up to 4 years. Now, I can't test that out because I haven't used the phone long enough, but if that works, then that's a pretty cool feature on the phone. Another cool feature is that you can use this phone to wirelessly charge other devices which also support, I believe, Qi charging, or maybe it's called Qi charging. Now, when it comes to the speakers are probably the best speakers I've heard on a phone. Definitely better than the iPhone speakers and even Samsung. They are very well balanced, rounded, and just good quality sounding speakers. They don't go as loud as, for example, other phones, and the audio quality is superior in my opinion. You get Sony's latest headphones with this phone if you pre-ordered it, but even those are wireless. So I'm just very confused why they have technology to make the audio sound better with wired headphones when a lot of people won't be using wired headphones. So what is my overall verdict when it comes to this phone? I really wanted to love this phone, and on paper the features and everything looks exciting and great, but after practically using it, I don't think the features live up to the hype and the performance is very average. Something that's crucial to me is the size, the width, the dimensions of the phone, and I just don't like looking at the screen a lot of the times. Also, that increased reflectiveness isn't great. I think the liquid retina display on the iPhone looks better. The camera is very average, inconsistent, but other than that, in terms of processing power, interface, apps, that kind of stuff, it all runs smoothly. So I personally just didn't find myself gravitating or falling in love with this phone. So that's pretty much it for this week's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, share it with people, and I will see you in my next video. So until then, take care.